Liverpool's most famous sons are the Beatles, and here, between the Cunard building and the Port building, is your first picture stop. We're in Liverpool, one of the most exciting port stops in the world, and we've been invited in to look at the Beatles story. If you don't enjoy a night out in Matthew Street, you're just not trying hard enough.
The Davidwache, you can see on the wall over there, the Davidwache.
Right.
Smallest police district in Germany, but it has one of the largest number of police because
and is that because of this area?
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the Herbertstrasse.
Men under 18 and women prohibited. And if women went through, there was quite a nasty reception from the prostitutes because they thought you were there on their patch.
To take their trade.
Yeah, usually on display in the shop windows.
Right, like in Amsterdam.
And I have to say, it's a question of taste. There is the square here with the Beatles, but if we go down this road here, the Große Freiheit, the big freedom, we have on our left where the Star Club was, which is where they played very regularly and became great hits with the young girls here in Hamburg. And then further down on the right, the Indra Club, which is a bit smaller, and that's where they really started first of all.
Great.
So let's go this way.
Yeah, let's go and have a look. So we're in the Beatles story in the heart of Liverpool. They're going to tell me all about it, and I'll tell you all about it. At the beginning, they tell you how the group was formed. George and Paul were friends already. John had a band, needed somebody, so they joined with him and made the Quarrymen. And you get bits from Paul speaking himself on the audio. This is where the Quarrymen came from, Quarrybank School for Boys. This is George's first guitar. So the Casbah is the first club that they appeared in Liverpool. So John, Paul and George famously performed in Hamburg, and Paul said it was like 800 hours of rehearsal. And how did they get to Hamburg? By ship. This is where the Star Club was. The plaque here.
So here, 17th of August 1960, the Beatles were on the stage here at the Indra Club, and it was their first engagement in Germany and the beginning of a great career.
Touch the wall.
So how do you find the Beatles Story Museum? Well, it's in the Albert Docks. Actually, it's under the Albert Docks, which means the bricked cavernous arches look just like the cavern. Anyway, it's under the Albert Docks and the entrance is facing the big wheel.
This is the office of the famous Merseybeat newspaper.
Look at the poster on the wall. Spectacular summer sailings, just like a cruise.
The Beatles bought some of their first instruments from Hennessy's music shop, and there are other pop stars in here who also did. After 300 performances in the Cavern, the last one was on the 3rd of August in 1963, and Brian Epstein promised the audience that the Beatles would be back. But they weren't. On the 27th of May in 1973, after numerous problems, the Cavern closed its doors forever, despite vociferous protests from fans. A few years later, the warehouse above was demolished to make way for the Mersey rail line. This never happened, however, and in 1984, a new shopping complex called Cavern Walks was built on the site, part of which includes a Cavern Club and a pub called Abbey Road. So this is my friend John Lennon. This is the original entrance to the Cavern Club, and here's another Liverpool icon, Cilla Black, and she used to work in the cloakroom. So this is the famous Cavern Club, and for £2.50 you can come in here. There's live music all day, every day, and the drinks are at pub prices. The Cavern Club was born here in a warehouse cellar on the 16th of January in 1957. This new doorway, displaying a montage of archive photographs, is situated on the exact site of the original entrance to the cavern, which opened for the last time on the 27th of May in 1973. During that period, fans walked through the old doorway down a narrow staircase of 18 stone steps into a basement atmosphere that made the cavern such an exciting venue. Whether you came to listen to jazz, skiffle, blues, Merseybeat or rock, The club played host to hundreds of legendary names, but it was the Beatles' appearances and their eventual worldwide success which gave the Cavern a magical status. Sadly, the Cavern was forced to close in 1973 and the warehouse above it was demolished to make way for a ventilation shaft to be constructed for the new underground railway system. The shaft was never built and the Cavern was simply left filled with rubble and remained in an undisturbed state below a makeshift car park until 1982 when redevelopment work started. The club reopened on the 25th of April 1984 and since then has reasserted itself as a contemporary live music venue and has opened its doors to bands such as Oasis, The Coral and Arctic Monkeys. The club remains as a global destination and the ultimate place of pilgrimage for Beatles fans. If you come to Matthew Street, this is the other Beatles museum. Adults £9, kids £4.
Brian Epstein wanted to be an actor and studied at RADA with Albert Finney and Peter O'Toole. He left because he realised he was too much of a businessman. And back home in Liverpool, his father put him in charge of the family store's record department.
So just look at this chart. It just shows you how different the Beatles were. Look how different their music was from everything that went before.
Epstein made the record store one of the biggest music outlets in the north of England.
It's interesting, it's a letter that Brian Epstein wrote to the Beatles.
Epstein was considered the fifth Beatle, and when they were awarded their MBE, they said it stood for Mr. Brian Epstein. It was him who saw them at a lunchtime concert at the Cavern in 1961. Him who changed their scruffy look into the clean-cut image that is a legend today. It was Mr. Brian Epstein who managed and made other acts like Jerry and the Pacemakers, Billy J. Kramer, who has a statue on the dock front where he was a boat hand, and you can see that in Gene's film of the Albert Docks. He managed Tommy Quickly and Cilla Black. Their early studio is also seen here at the museum, and we would like to thank the Beatles Story Museum for allowing us and helping us to make this film. It is a fantastic place and definitely a very important part of British history. The story unfolds in the headset with quotes from the Beatles and their friends. I was lucky enough to have seen them in 1963 at the Walthamstow Granada. So this brought back a lot of memories for me.
This is them in 1969 on the roof of their headquarters in Savile Row. Each of the Beatles has their own special area. This is Ringo's, the Joker, the actor, the drummer, and his drumsticks are here. These pictures reflect the Yoko Ono period when John was writing Imagine. The New York years ended in such sadness.
Also on Doris Visits, we have a number of films on New York. One which includes the bus tour actually passes the place where John Lennon was shot.
Here, and actually these lovely statues that you see These were the Spanish liberators during the Spanish and American War. And during the war, they were even...
Central Park is huge and every single area is different. So this is stop number 25 on the map and it's Strawberry Fields, and Yoko Ono lives at the top of the building there, and she said she loves it because she can see over the top of the park to Strawberry Fields. And after you've done the tour, there's a discovery area for the children and some adults.
Also see our guide of Liverpool and the Albert Docks and just about every other port dock destination in the world here on Doris Visits. Thanks for joining us. Happy cruising.